With the best brand of football in Idaho, this is the 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in. It is the championship edition of the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, presented by Ideal, Idaho's college savings program, and the Idaho Office of Highway Safety. Hello, good evening. Welcome in. Brandon Baney with you here live on a Wednesday night, November 20th, on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. 'Twas the night before championship weekend, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring except the crew here at the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast. So it doesn't rhyme. Sue me. Let's bring in probably better poets and wordsmiths than I could ever hope to be. Our first panelist tonight, Coach Lane Kirkland. Hello. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. That was really good there. You're just warming up for Christmas, Brandon. I like it. You're bringing the spirit.
It was one of those, I started talking and then I'm like, where am I going with this? And then there was just ran out of room on the runway. Sometimes that happens.
You're good.
Here's a guy that always has the appropriate word and is quick-witted as well. You know him as the owner-operator of the Idaho 8-Man X account and Instagram account. It's Will Hoenike. What's up, Will?
Thank goodness for the quick wit, because I can't tell you how many times on this show I've started talking and then it's just dawned on me, I don't know where I'm going with this. So I need to find a way to wrap this thing up and have it make some sense here, or people are going to figure out that I'm a bit of a fraud.
So, okay, Coach, we're talking about this topic of talking and not really know. Have you ever started delivering a speech to your team and you're kind of thinking in the back of your head, like, okay, where am I going with this? How do I wrap this up? Have you ever had that?
Oh, yeah, quite frequently. I was like, this is really lame. I'm not even fired up. Well, I got a problem here. Let's hand this over to a manager. He can do better.
Oh, yeah. And of course, over the course of your career, you delivered many talks ahead of many championship games, and we're going to talk about those a little bit later on in the show. I called it the 5-point plan for winning state championships, but I think I like your title a little better. We'll come up on that in the coach's corner in just a moment. But first, guys, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. I mean, we're getting to the pointy end of the stick here, and so we're going to recap what happened in last week's semifinals, set the table for the two championship games, one on Thursday, one on Friday. The 8-man guys are going to be like out of the way the first two games of the weekend, Coach Kirkland, and then we can just take we don't need to tune into those 11-man games. We can just enjoy the rest of our weekend.
We'll watch some college ball on Saturday. That'll be just fine with the rest of us, right?
Yeah, for sure. It all starts with the 1A state championship game Thursday night at the ICCU Dome in Pocatello. If you are watching this live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or X account, first of all, thanks for being with us. Second of all, if you'd like to ask us a question or give a shout out to your favorite team, your favorite player, your favorite coach, doesn't even have to be somebody competing this weekend. You can do that. We'll throw it up on the screen. And if you could also hit the like button and then share this when it's all said and done, that'll help everybody that might be at a girls basketball game or something right now. It'll help them find it a little easier on replay tomorrow and or Friday. So, okay, guys, let's start with the 2A semifinals, and then we'll go 1A, and then we'll preview these championship games. Let's start with the game that kicked off semifinal weekend last Thursday night. It was Butte County hosting Hagerman inside the ICCU Dome over in Pocatello. This was a game where Butte County got off to a fast start. Hagerman slipped just a little bit out of the gates, Coach, and against a team like Butte County, that's enough. 50-22, the final score. Pirates get revenge after losing to Hagerman in the regular season. And this was kind of a wake-up call for Coach Sam Thorngren's team when they lost to Hagerman in the regular season. What was the difference here in the semifinal rematch?
Yeah, it sure was. Talking to Coach Thorngren over the phone about the recap of the game earlier in the season, he says that was good for us, really healthy for us. We were able to clean up a lot of things, find some details that we were missing, and get a lot more focused. And we knew that we had to do that to execute against a great Hagerman team. But Archibald, man, getting this thing cranked up from the very beginning with that keeper. Man, oh man, that fake is like the Grinch stealing Christmas, dude. He just takes that ball to the house and sticks it under the tree. And man, what a 6-point gift for the Pirates early in the game, a couple of different times in the row. there to start with, and then that heavy run attack with Duke and Twitchell that just continued throughout the game. A great pass caught over the middle in traffic by McCoy Jensen as well to kind of put the game a little bit further away from the Pirates or the Hagerman Pirates trying to close. So the offense of Butte County really dialed in the other night and executed very well.
Yeah, Will, a lot of games we'll see Butte County throw the ball maybe 4 or 5 times. Keaton Archibald, 6 of 9. That's big production, 66 yards in the touchdown. But like Coach said, 9 carries for 103 yards and 2 scores. And really it was that opening drive, right? Kind of the eye opener to get it started.
Yeah, and opened up the playbook a little bit. And they Nick Holloway talked about it with the Logos game. When you're playing a team for the second time, when you face them that second time, you got to expect some wrinkles. And I think that this was a bit of a wrinkle, whether it was by design or whether it was Coach Thorngren and his staff realizing, hey, they're giving us something that we can take advantage here. I think the thing that I was most impressed about with Butte County, look at that versatility. Keaton Archibald, your starting quarterback, you're all state, all conference, all everything level quarterback is off to a phenomenal start. Then he gets injured. No problem. Let's just slide in Razor Duke really quick, who played quarterback a couple of years ago before shifting to his utility position. And, the thing you worry about in a game like this against a great opponent like Hagerman, when you have to make a big shift like that, even though Duke is an incredibly talented kid and he's played quarterback before, that's still a big change. And the fact that they just kept humming, I was so impressed with that. And the fact that, Archibald was off to a great start before he got dinged. Duke stepped right in, just kept the motor humming. Twitchell has a great game. The Lions did a fantastic job. And the defense to hold Hagerman to 22 points. We've talked all season long how talented, how diverse, and how explosive this Hagerman offense is. And the Butte County defense, they didn't quote unquote shut them down, but they minimized damage and they allowed the offense to make sure that there was always a pad there.
Yeah, this is like 2 weeks in a row, Coach, where we've seen a quarterback put up pretty significant passing numbers and not a ton of touchdowns, where we were talking about Xavier Parrish from Rockland 2 weeks ago. He threw for over 300 yards, but only the 1 touchdown. Wyatt Mavenkamp here for Hagerman ends up passing for 304 yards, only gets the 2 touchdowns, and that is the difference, right, Coach? When you get into the dome, you get under the bright lights, you can pile up the yardage, but it's what defense is going to buckle down and make a stop when they absolutely have to.
Right, and I'll add to Will's stuff there on the defense. It was a lot of pressure. It brought a lot of pressure on the quarterback. The pass defense for the deep ball was excellent, and that pressure forced a kind of not really an errant pass, but not on target like they've been used to all season long. So those quick hitters, those quick strikes, those early scores that piled up in the first quarter to 20-some points weren't available because of the Butte County defense, and that seemed to be the difference in the start of that game and in the finish. Just not quite enough for the Hagerman Pirates the other night, making some good scores and finishing strong in the fourth quarter, but a little bit too late on a great season that they've had this year.
Yeah, Razor Duke, 2 more sacks. I think he had 3 last week in the quarterfinals. He is really starting to pile up the numbers. I think the only guy that had a better weekend from Idaho was Taysom Hill, guys, on Sunday for the New Orleans Saints. It's pretty remarkable what Razor Duke's been able to do. So, Will, we talked about Keaton Archibald leaves with I think an ankle injury in that contest. Razor Duke comes in. Now, I'm preparing. I'm broadcasting that championship game on Friday night. I'm preparing to see Keaton Archibald under center. Am I correct in my thinking there, Will? What do you think?
I think if he's able to do it at all, it's going to be hard for Coach Thorngren to keep him off the field. We saw it a little bit with Ronaldo Gomez against Butte County earlier, just trying to grit it out essentially on one leg. And I don't know that Archibald, I don't know how severe the ankle injury is, but when you're talking about a state championship game and, you have a chance to go back to back and you're going up against just a amazing opponent, I think adrenaline's going to help Archibald a little bit. And if he's able to get out there and do anything, I think they'll utilize that as best they can. However, if he can't, that's a heck of a plan B to have Razor Duke sitting there, a guy who's, he's a veteran, he's explosive, he's talented, and he's been a quarterback in this system. So, if you're going to have Archibald unable to go, it's about as good of a situation as you could have for Butte County to have Razor Duke sitting there.
Yeah, for those that may not remember, at the start of last season, the 2023 campaign, Razor Duke was the starting quarterback for about the first half of the season for Butte County, and all of a sudden, Keaton Archibald, this kid from the JV team, is just lighting it up. And so Coach Thorngren went to Razor Duke middle of the season and said, hey, we really want to bring up Archibald and put him at quarterback and move you kind of all over the formation, and you can be a multi-use weapon for us that way. And Razor Duke coach, without a hesitation, said, absolutely, whatever's best for the team, I'll do it. And that's the kind of selflessness that you need and that buy-in from your players this time of year.
Yeah, he looked really good stepping in there, didn't miss a beat. Coach Thorngren, very confident in him, and has actually got quite a few reps as well this season. If there's a really good veterinarian in Arco, I'm sure that Keaton has seen and given him some of those horse pills for pain and whatever else. And of course, they make atomic energy over there, and they probably infused a little bit of that into his injury. And so I think the guy's coming back. He's a former state champion. He's led his team. He's going to be on the field leading until he's dropped. But he's a fighter, and he wants to lead the Butte County Pirates back to number 2 in a row.
I'm dating myself by saying this, but if they could make Steve Austin work for $6 million back in 1980, then they can make Keaton Archibald work for one game back here in 2024. And go look up your $6 million man reference there. For those of you who don't know that one, Lee Majors and the slow motion thing. That was about as good as TV got when I was a kid.
Yeah, we'll see if Butte County can get a little blast from the past, guys. They don't want to blast back too far, though, just back to last year when they won their first championship in school history. See if they can repeat as champions. It's an interesting championship matchup with Kendrick, and we'll get to it in a second. But first, guys, let's give a final farewell to the Hagerman Pirates. We've been doing this all season long. At the end of the regular season, we gave a final farewell to all the teams that didn't qualify for the playoffs. And then as the bracket has gotten smaller and smaller in each round of the playoffs, we've kind of given just a quick second to tip our cap one more time to the teams that conclude their play. So Coach Hagerman finishes the year 10-2, 4-1 in the Snake River Conference. And they, like Kendrick, moved up a classification level. They had been competing at the 1A level. I mean, when I first started at IdahoSports.com 4 or 5 years ago, Hagerman didn't even have enough guys for a varsity team. I mean, they weren't even playing football. And so what a turnaround it's been for Hagerman. The youth program is excelling. The junior high team is excelling. These guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, they're not. And there's some really good young freshmen on that team that got a lot of experience this year. And they'll be back. But what a great start for them at the 2A level. It's a lot more difficult up there. The teams it's just better teams that you run into there, and they'll improve as they gain this experience now 2 years in a row going to the playoffs, deep into the playoffs. And they're going to field some tremendous athletes once again next year with a few new names, but they're going to be just about the same quality.
They're going to lose a lot of versatile weapons, Kai Kendall, Martin Gonzalez, Seamus Merrill among them, but they do return junior quarterback Wyatt Mavenkamp. And really, I'm thinking, Will, here at the top of my head, looking ahead to next year already, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better two-way lineman than Alex Johnson, center and defensive end.
No, he was tremendous this year. And, another guy they have to replace, Coleman Pierce, a linebacker, who just, goes out and makes about 375 tackles a game. To have Alex Johnson sitting there, and I don't know that he's going to slide into the linebacker role. I don't know what Coach Hicks has planned, but to have that cornerstone piece ready to just kind of move into the limelight there in Johnson, and other players as well. Like Coach mentioned, they had 2 or 3 freshmen that played some key roles here. So yeah, they've got some ponies to replace, but they've got some serious ponies coming back too.
Yep, absolutely. So for Hagerman, they just ran out of steam at the end of the season. I was talking a little bit to somebody from Hagerman, and they basically were talking about a big key for them as the season went along was Martin Gonzalez started getting more and more banged up. And so what early on in the season, they were able to showcase him a little more in the running game. They kind of started tilting more and more to passing, and that lack of balance down the stretch with Gonzalez being so banged up at running back, I think affected Hagerman a little bit. It's just something else to consider from this game. But Hagerman, tremendous season, certainly, and a tip of the hat to you. All right, guys, let's go to the other semifinal from last Friday. This was at Bengal Field in Lewiston. Outdoors, a beautiful night for football. Both coaches agreed. And this was a game I was at broadcasting for IdahoSports.com. Had a chance to talk to Coach Nick Holloway from Logos before the game, and also Zane Hobart from Kendrick before the contest as well. And really, Kendrick came in with the game plan of, we got to get back to what has been successful for us in the past, Coach, and that is running the ball, certainly, but also completing short, easy passes and then letting our talented receivers do the legwork. In the past couple of games, Kendrick had gotten away from that a little bit. They had started to dial up those deep passes. And so in this game, they kind of went back to basics. It was a lot of 5-yard outs, some slants, nothing like too crazy. And then they had a couple of deep balls, but really they got back to basics, and I thought it looks pretty darn good. 52-26 victory for the Kendrick Tigers. And this is another revenge game where they lost to Logos earlier in the season. They get revenge in a big way here in this semifinal, Coach.
Yeah. Going back to the basics is critical, especially once you've been beat, but you shouldn't have, and you see those little adjustments. You only need to get first downs, and those turn into touchdowns. So it's 10 yards and then 10 yards, and then eventually you'll score. So that's really critical. This is a game that's really pretty simple of blocking, tackling, and running and blocking, and just taking care of the football. And Kendrick has been pretty darn good at that over the years, and a great Logos team making it an excellent charge and putting them to the test, which is what Kendrick wanted, is that test to see what they really were. And I would imagine that Coach Hobart would be the same as Coach Thorngren, saying, yeah, that was a great loss for us. Great loss. It woke us up. We changed some things. We figured it out. We went back to the board and said, hey, we already got the stuff available. We got the guys available. Let's just call a good game here, and let's stay healthy, and we should win.
Yeah, Maddox Kirkland ends up completing 12 of 15 passes for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns, adds a 5th score on the ground. This is something I talked about last week as well, guys. Carson Hogan back at center in that quarterfinal against Kamiai was a little rusty. Snaps are all over the place. Not one bad snap on Friday night, and it was Hogan in there again. So that was really good to see from Kendrick as well. On the Logos side, Will, this was the first time all year I saw that Logos defense really flummoxed and just not sure how to stop all of these incredible athletes from Kendrick. They did such a good job shutting down the run in the first matchup that they won 30-18, but this game, whole different ball of wax. And basically, if you're having to play a game where you can't get any stops defensively, then you got to cash in on every single drive offensively. That didn't happen for Logos. And then to add on top of that, you see right here, Sawyer Hewitt, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown. He also had a kick return for a touchdown. Second time he's done that to Logos in 2 games this year. They kept squib kicking it down the middle to Hewitt, and you just held your breath every time he picked it up, Will, because he has that type of electric ability.
The kid is just, quite simply, I think he's the best overall player in 8-man football. He lost those games to injury, which may impact some voters as far as state player of the year or anything. But I think if you gave every coach, okay, you can go pick one player, Sawyer Hewitt's going to be the pick for a lot of people. And it's because he can change a game. Unlike many, there aren't too many other players, especially at the 8-man level, who can turn a game around the way that he can. And the one that specifically comes to mind is that kick return for a touchdown. Logos had just scored. They got a little momentum. They're feeling good. The crowd's kind of peppy. The crowd's kind of fired up. And then Hewitt just goes, 75 yards the other way, 80 yards the other way. And the air instantly came out of that Logos balloon. And you talked about how when they played a few weeks ago, Logos's defense, which it's an incredible defense, giving up 52 points to Kendrick, that's no, you don't get to, you don't lose your Christmas presents because of that. Kendrick's that special, but that Logos defense held them to 18 points a few weeks ago. And then Kendrick makes those adjustments, makes those tweaks, and they score 38 in the first half. They were able to capitalize. They found some seams, they found some openings. And I mean, I was really, really impressed with what Kendrick was able to do against a fantastic opponent. I mean, Logos, again, you don't get to playing at this time of year without being a heck of a football team. And Logos is a heck of a football team. They were not a fluke. And Kendrick, they played twice, and Logos got them the first time. Kendrick got them the second time.
Yeah, and talking to Coach Holloway before the game, Coach Kirkland, he said he's really enjoyed this budding rivalry with Kendrick. They've played each other in junior high and kind of the JV level, and this was the first year they had faced off at the varsity level. He said what makes the rivalry even more enjoyable is the amount of class and sportsmanship that are shown on both sides, because sometimes you can get into rivalries and it's talking trash and button heads and saying certain 4-letter words and all that stuff, but that there's none of that with this Kendrick and Logos programs. It's just two teams that respect the heck out of each other. They know they're going to lace it up and do battle, and they're going to come away feeling pretty good about themselves no matter what happens. So Coach Holloway specifically said that has added to his enjoyment of the rivalry, the competitiveness, but also the outstanding character and sportsmanship shown by both schools.
That's really good to hear. And I have seen a lot of great sportsmanship in the games that I've been to all the season long from a variety of teams. Even in the first quarter, first plays, smashing somebody and helping them up off the turf. It's really, really fun to be able to watch that. It keeps the game clean the rest of the evening, and it makes it easy for the refs and the fans to cheer. And then the coaches can shake hand in agreement that, man, yeah, you guys were good. You kicked our butts. Nice adjustments, that kind of thing. Great play calls, whatever it may have been. But you develop those relationships like that through sportsmanship as coaches as well, and they last for friendships for forever, man. They're really, really cool to be able to achieve that, and great season, Logos.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. Let's give a final farewell to the Logos Knights. 9-2 overall. They went 9-1 last year, guys. So that is 18-3 over the past 2 years. Will, it can't be stated enough what they've been able to do. They do lose some really talented seniors: Seamus Wilson, Ryan Daniels, Lucius Comas, all gone. Gunnar Holloway, the great center and linebacker, is gone. Ben Carlson on the O-line is gone. Basically, the two guys you see at the bottom here are the two pieces they're really going to build around next year. Asaph, Ace Greaser, they call him Ace. He's probably going to be the running back next year. I would assume Baxter Covington, who rushed for 143 yards as Logos' running back against Kendrick on Friday night. I'm assuming he is going to shift to quarterback. He's kind of played quarterback at the lower levels, but those are two pretty good athletes to build around.
Well, I mean, it really is, and they're explosive. You saw it, Baxter Covington. He had a great game, against Kendrick. They had a drive where it was Covington left, Covington right, Covington up the middle, touchdown Logos. I mean, they and I think you're right. I think that there's a good chance he will slide into the quarterback position. But when you take out Ryan Daniels, you take out Dom Porras, you take out Lucius Comas, they're going to have some players step up on the perimeter. It'll be curious to see, and I'm not saying this in any kind of a insider knowledge way, but does Logos maybe shift their mindset a little bit next year? We saw a little bit, 2 years ago with Jack Driscoll. It was, tempo and funky motions and funky, formations and stuff, and it really worked. And this year there wasn't quite as much of that, but it still worked. Okay, it obviously you go 9-2 and you get to the state semifinals. It's you won the conference championship. It still worked. So do they tinker a little more next year, or do they feel like they found something that works for them formulaically? And I think that it's a sign of great coaching to sit there and not say, you know what, I'm an air raid coach and I don't care what cards I have in my deck, I'm running the air raid offense. And I think we see a lot of coaches, particularly in the 8-man level, who say, okay, here's what I got. I mean, I used to have this absolute stud insert position here, running back or quarterback or whatever. I don't have that this year, so I need to change what I'm doing a little bit. And I think that's a sign of great coaching to be able to do that and to not really miss a beat. And Logos didn't really miss a beat this year.
Yeah, that was a conversation I had with Coach Holloway as well. You mentioned it 2 years ago, had this wide open aerial attack with Jack Driscoll, and their first loss was their last loss, semifinals to Butte County. And I think, he didn't tell me this, but this is just kind of what I inferred. I think he looked at Butte County and saw the way they ran the ball and said, if we want to keep playing it deep into the season and have success, we got to be able to do that when it gets late in the year. And so they did shift a little bit to more of a traditional running attack this year. And I think that balance will continue to be struck moving forward. But that's kind of the thing, right? You learn, you adjust, coach. And sometimes you see what a successful team is doing and you go, that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to file that away for later.
Yeah, for sure. You can live by the past, but you can die by it faster. And you got to have that balance. And if you can run the ball, you can win championships. And you have to be able to do that and have to have that other attack. Because somebody's going to take one of those away from you, and you better have a little balance in your arsenal there. Great season, and we'll see that program continue to rise in the years to come.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's get to it, guys. The 2A state championship game. Howard in the chat already given us his assessment. Turnovers and 2-point conversions will be key in this matchup. Hoping those Butte Pirates can put some pressure on Maddox Kirkland and contain him some. So just for official purpose sake, here is the 2A bracket one final time as we take a look at it here. It's Butte County and Kendrick, Friday evening, 4 p.m. inside the Kibbe Dome in Moscow. Now, for those Butte County fans, it's 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's going to be 5 p.m. Mountain time. You can tune into that game on IdahoSports.com. I will be there broadcasting, so it's going to be terrific, guys. But the football on the field is going to be the real star of the show. Will, what is the key factor, key matchup you're looking at in this championship?
I'm kind of old school in this regard, and Coach kind of hinted at it with the running game. Who's going to control the line of scrimmage? Butte County has so many weapons that can hurt you on the ground, and Kendrick can hurt you anywhere. So, I think Howard's comment was kind of on point. Can Butte County, can they get after Maddox Kirkland a little bit? Can they take away his sight lines? Can they put some pressure on him? Or can that really good Kendrick offensive line give him a nice pocket? If he has a nice pocket with that group of receivers and that group of running backs, Kendrick could put up some crooked numbers really, really fast. And crooked numbers is a baseball reference, but yeah, I think that someone's going to have to win the line of scrimmage, and I think that that's going to be a really, really, really strong indicator on who wins the game.
Yeah, it's going to be, Razor Duke has been a really good pass rusher from that linebacker spot. He's going to have to get home quickly, Coach Kirkland, because the way the Kendrick looked on last Friday, they're going to get the ball out pretty quickly. It's going to be a 5-yard slant. It's going to be a 5-yard out. It's going to be a 1 to 2 step drop out of that shotgun, and you're firing away. And so then it becomes, to me, I think, one-on-one, can your athletes tackle their athletes in the open field? But what do you think?
Yeah, there's got to be some pressure come off the edge there like they did in this last game here. And that's the first thing that Sam Thorngren told me is be physical. What Will's talking about there, who's going to be the most physical, and he's hoping that his team is there. I know that Coach Hobart runs that 3 front, and those 3 front guys are studs. They are difficult to move, and they almost take the front 5 to get it done sometimes. But I know Coach Thorngren's a schematic guy, and he'll have some things drawn up there, and he's got some horses to be able to control the ball and to run in a variety of different directions with those guys. But Sawyer Hewitt, man, they're going to have to keep an eye on him and control him. And Coach Hobart has always gotten off to great starts in big games that I've been a part of, and especially in 21. He shocked the heck out of us and put up, I think, 30-some points in the first half against us, and we didn't know what hit us. And he just makes great play calls, I think, like the Logos game last week, and just got up real quick with some great execution, some things he saw. And I'm sure there were a million reps on those to make it happen. So Butte's going to have to hang in while they're on the road there and hang on to the football and control those, get those third downs. I think it's the key for Butte County to be able to win the game.
Yeah, and that's the other key, I think, is who's going to be able to stay ahead of the chains. And 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, a lot better than 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, those types of things for sure. Joel Richardson, your broadcast partner last week, Coach. He says old school is alive and well in this one. Win in the trenches equals win the game. So
that's right, Joel.
Yep. No, he probably picked that up from you during the broadcast and wrote it down.
I don't know. Joel knows a lot. It was fun to work with those guys last weekend.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, that front three for Kendrick on the defensive line. Caleb O'Brien's been playing the nose this year. Brock Boyer at one defensive end, Wyatt Cook at the other. And people have asked me, because now I live in North Idaho, so I get the question all the time, like, well, why is Kendrick so good? What makes him so good? And I really do believe it starts with the line. The last several years they've had Brock Boyer and Carson Hogan and Dallas Morgan before that, and they hit the weight room and they pump iron, and they're just big, physically imposing two-way linemen. And so that is certainly a big key for Kendrick.
They played a game here in Parma a couple years ago, one of those meet in the middle games against Oakley. And I'm standing up there calling the game, and I'm just looking at it, and Oakley won the game. But I'm just looking at those Kendrick linemen. And that's, Dallas Morgan, the older Silflo was there. I forget who the third lineman is now off the top of my head, because you just kind of triggered my memory on this one, Brandon. But I'm looking at those three linemen and saying this is at the time 1A Division II, smallest classification in Idaho. Parma didn't have a kid that could have touched any of the three of them. And I'm just saying to myself, where are they finding them? And can we tap into that somehow here in Parma? Because Coach Hobart and his assistants and his youth coaches in that community, boy, they have done some great work building that program. And it's primed to have a few more good years before the spigot turns off.
Yep, no doubt about it. One last matchup I'm looking at, guys, is the special teams coach Kirkland with Sawyer Hewitt, this electric kick returner. What's the strategy? Do you just kick it out of bounds? Do you try and squib it? And for a lot of teams, it's something that keeps them up at night. But we're talking about on the other side for Butte County, I think the greatest squib kicker / onside kickoff guy I've ever seen in Levi Hendricks. He is really a weapon for Butte County from that kickoff position. How do you view that battle in terms of the special teams?
Yeah, you got to score to kick off, and you want to kick off a lot, and you can get that ball back on those onsides. It's a dangerous game changer. I've seen it all season long. More onsides, more squib kicks than I've ever seen in its entire season amongst all the teams that are still playing right now. What a weapon that it's become, and why not? If your defense is good, give it a shot. You only got to hold them for 10 yards. And that's it. So, get after it. Maybe you'll get the ball like we've seen in a lot of games this season.
He made it sound so easy. All you got to do is stop him for 10 yards.
Yeah, piece of cake. No problem.
That's what Joel and Sean told me.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, here's Alfred Marshall from Potlatch, guys. The White Pine is crazy good. And Kendrick is hoping all those tough challenges have helped prepare them, because they really only had the one non-conference game this year, because there's 7 White Pine opponents that you have to play. And the one non-conference game was Oakley, which unfortunately Oakley was down this year, so they didn't get much out of that. So I just love that we have a true matchup of teams that haven't seen each other this year, at least. Of course, we all remember last year, Butte County and Kendrick did play in the regular season, even though they were in totally different classifications. It was that meet in the middle game in Middleton, I believe. And that was the game, of course, where Dylan Waymeyer collapsed on the sidelines, and they actually called the game in the second half of that contest. And of course, Dylan was taken to the hospital and on that long road to recovery, was able to be there in the wheelchair for the state championship game last year for Butte County. Just such a powerful moment when the Pirates won the title. He is helping out, coaching them this year, so he'll be on the sidelines for this championship game Friday inside the Kibbe Dome. It's just interesting how that narrative has kind of come full circle now as well, Coach.
Yeah, it's all about getting to that championship game and giving yourself another opportunity there, and it should be a fun one for them the coaches to talk again and to visit. I know that Butte County's headed up tomorrow, planning on stopping in Middleton for a practice. They might have to shovel the field. I don't know what the snow's looking like over there, Will. What's the weather over there?
No snow right now. It's cold and windy though. I mean, really like sustained, not like breezy. It's pretty windy over here.
Nasty Idaho. So yeah, it'll be a good matchup for those guys to be in the championship game and to meet once again in a final.
Yep. All right. A couple more comments from the Peanut Gallery in East Idaho, guys. Joel Richardson says, I learned everything I know from you, Coach. And then Sean adds in, Coach, I was going to say thanks for working with us until you threw us 10 yards under the bus.
That's a long bus, man.
That is a really big bus.
Those guys were fun.
Yep, that's a lot of fun. Okay, guys, this is gonna be super fun too. We're gonna have one fan base really love us and one fan base be really upset at us. It's time to make our official championship game predictions. Now, when the season first kicked off here, and we made our official championship predictions here on IdahoSports.com. Will, do you remember what your championship prediction was?
I'm pretty sure this was my matchup. I don't remember if I picked a winner though. Am I correct?
You did pick a winner. We all had this matchup, Kendrick and Butte County. Will and Coach both chose Kendrick. I chose Butte County. This was way back in August at the start of the season. I wrote it down. I put it in the vault and wrote it down. Do we want to change our picks at all, or are we going to stick with what we said in August?
I'm going to stand by it. I went with the pick. I rode, I've ridden that pony all the way here. I stuck with Deary and Garden Valley. I'd be pretty hypocritical to turn my back on Kendrick now.
Coach?
I'll stick with my pick as well. I think Kendrick wants to set the record straight. That 4 in a row is possible, and they're eyeing that down. And I think they're humble enough and hungry enough that they're going to make that happen for a Butte team that's traveling quite a long ways with a quarterback that's a little bit dinged up. Even though I believe in the Pirates a lot, I think it's Kendrick's going to get it done this year.
All right. Well, for the sake of being a gentleman, I will stick with my original prediction as well, and I will take the Butte County Pirates 2 years in a row. Let's do it, Arco. And again, this was incredible. We all pegged that this was going to be the matchup all the way back in August, because
if you nail this one, Brandon, you might be able to get free burgers at Pickles Place in perpetuity.
Nostradamus over here.
What's the Kendrick equivalent? If we have anybody in Kendrick tuned in tonight, where are Coach Kirkland and I getting free burgers for life when we're right?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Because
Coach Hobart, right? Coach Hobart, maybe.
Yeah,
Coach Hobart's we're going to his house and he's putting them on the barbecue.
He'll be getting that bonus check.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's great. Okay, so it's pretty incredible. We all picked this championship matchup back in August, because now if we look at our 2A picks, we were all over the place. This one was a little more unpredictable coming into the season. We kind of felt all good about Carey. We weren't really sure, who that other team was going to be. It ends up being Dietrich, the district rival. So let's revisit how we got there. First semifinal on Friday night was Carey. Actually, the first semifinal was Dietrich, right, Coach?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, and you were on the call for these games for IdahoSports.com. 71-40 over Tri-Valley. I picked Tri-Valley on this show last week because I think Tri-Valley is an offense that can keep up with Dietrich, and 40 points. Heck yeah. I never thought in my wildest dreams Dietrich would put up 71, Coach.
Well, when you have Perkins and Norman on the same page for 5 touchdowns, it looked really clean. It was they were on fire. It was quick strikes all night long, a few turnovers here and there for the Titans, but man, it was quick work. Once Dietrich got the ball, Perkins running a little bit, throwing it a lot, and staying comfortable in the pocket is what we noticed the other night. They're more comfortable than he's been all season long. With better blocking and just drop stepping clean and focusing on open receivers and just throwing it at the right time and the right spot. I mean, 287 yards on 11 completions, 6 touchdowns. He did a lot that night through the air, which was a different story than we've seen. Well, we've seen it all year, really. I mean, he was part of 10 touchdowns instead of 9 compared to last week. But Chase Norman catching the ball clean and looking like a star and a stud. Great routes, great focus, sideline being his companion, tipping those toes a lot of the time throughout the night. Really explosive Blue Devil offense.
Yeah, Will, we talked about Connor Perkins, 9 touchdowns in that quarterfinal win over Cascade, 10 touchdowns here, 6 through the air, 4 on the ground. Last week he had a couple via kick return. But really, I want to talk about Chase Norman because we talk about Connor Perkins every week, and we should. But Chase Norman,
he's one of those guys like when we do our weekly 3 stars conversations. Connor Perkins is one of those kids that could be a 3-star. He could be one of them every week. He really could.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. So let's talk about Chase Norman because last week against Cascade, he had 3 touchdown receptions, 5 more Friday. That's 8 touchdowns in the last 2 games. I mean, 7 catches for 203 yards and 7 receptions. 5 of those ended with him in the end zone celebrating.
I did see some video of some of them. I didn't watch the game. I listened to the Idaho Sports call the game, and the broadcast team did an excellent job calling the game. But seeing some video after the fact, I think the thing that I was most impressed with is they looked like really clean routes and then well thrown balls, like just a good overall connection. They weren't, they were good catches, and then the coverage was frankly pretty good on more than one of those touchdowns. As I recall, Coach, you could speak to it a little bit better than me, but they were well-placed footballs and they were well-caught footballs. Norman just went up and he made the catch, and, you make 7 catches and 5 of them are touchdowns. I mean, that's backyard stuff. That's Thanksgiving goofing around with your 60-year-old uncle stuff. That's just, you talk about something you're going to be talking about for a long time. That performance right there is something that people around Dietrich are going to be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, and I was going to give a little bit of credit here. Sorry to butt in, Brandon, to Ruger and Shane Jennings, the assistant coaches at Dietrich, former amazing quarterbacks at Gooding High School under Cameron Anderson, who's now at Burley. And both those guys, I believe, went on to play college ball. And I'm sure have done some amazing work with Perkins and saying, stay comfortable in that pocket, throw a strike, and then Norman with the speed. I mean, you can't get open if you're slow, unless it's a stop route and you're big and you're just a big target. But the speed and those clean routes, like you observed, Will, were exactly right on. And it was a great show.
Yeah, it was a pretty remarkable performance by Dietrich. And we'll send off the Tri-Valley Titans here in just a second. But guys, you asked and the fans delivered. You wanted to know where you could get some good grub in Kendrick or maybe free grub for life. I don't know if they're going to hold us to that, but Donnell says Hardware Brewery is a good spot. And Deanna says you could get free sandwiches at the 1870 Deli.
I like it. I like it.
Perfect.
What's your go-to sandwich at the deli, Coach?
I like the triple stacked club sandwich, man.
Okay, that's my wife's favorite. It's a good club. What about you, Will?
I'm a ham and provolone guy. Ham and cheddar or ham first and foremost. Ham sandwich, baby. But used to be all about the cheddar. Now I'm kind of as I'm getting kind of old and curmudgeonly, I've decided I like provolone on my sandwich.
Okay, that's the maturity of your taste buds, Will. That's
I guess. Or maybe I'm just getting soft and I can't eat things that are quite as sharp anymore.
Oh, geez. Me personally, if it's a cold deli only, I'm probably going like an Italian, with some salami and pepperoni and that kind of stuff. If it's they got hot sandwiches, meatball sub all the way. I love meatball sub. Costco just started making these meatball subs from the deli that you can take home and bake. And oh man, chef's kiss.
I will also not ever turn down a good chicken salad sandwich.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah, that's a good one too, for sure. All right. Well, Dietrich advances to the championship. Tri-Valley Titans, their season concludes. We'll give them a final farewell here. 10-2 season, 4-1 in the long pin. Their only losses were to Council and Dietrich. Second year for Tyler Wagoner as the head coach. And really, his son Jace, great quarterback, obviously. excellent defensive back also. But this year, Will, I think we saw more completeness from Tri-Valley, where last year it was like really clear. They were leaning on Wagoner a lot. This year, it was on the defensive side of the ball. Elias DeVries, what he was able to do as a pass rusher, and guys like Moyne Ingram and Gage George. And it seemed like a more complete team effort this year for Tri-Valley.
They were able to spread it around a little bit more. I would agree with that. But I also think when push came to shove, it was going to be number 3 who had the ball in his hands. And I think the stats reflect it. If I'm not mistaken, he went over 2,000 yards rushing in the game on Friday, which at the high school level, and I don't say whatever you want about 8-man, 11-man, 46-man, I don't care. You run for 2,000 yards in a 12-game season, you've done some work. And the other thing that I think for Tri-Valley, and we've mentioned it on this podcast before, just the long pin in general, but specifically Tri-Valley, only 2 seniors on that team. Moyne Ingram, one of them, Pearson, the other one. Everybody else back next year.
That's pretty remarkable. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Here is Kenna in the chat, guys, correcting me. Jace is Tyler's nephew, LOL. And I'm going to guess Kenna is related to Jace somehow as well. That was the ultimate broadcaster mistake there. You can't assume that it's always father, son, or brothers on the team, especially in these small communities, coach. Sometimes you've got cousins. You always got to check with the coach, right?
Yeah, you do. There's a genealogy there that you got to, go back there for generations and see where they're at. But love to see those names on the rosters reflecting coaches and uncles and dads and grandpas across the nation.
Yep. And Kenna says she is Jace's mom. Proud mama, I'm sure. Thanks for tuning in. It was really fun to watch Jace and the entire Tri-Valley team compete this year. And again, great co-op between Midvale and Cambridge there. 2 schools coming together. I think the only true co-op we've got in Idaho football, Will.
Yeah, and there are some old people in both of those communities that it took them a little while to get used to saying I'm with Cambridge or I'm with Midvale. Those are old. You go back decades, and that was a rivalry. The Rangers and the Midvale Rangers and the Cambridge Bulldogs. So when they merged for their sports, it took a little while for some folks to get used to it, but it's been a good partnership, and not just in football, in other sports as well.
Yep. Ryan Skaggs, our North Idaho broadcaster, says Lewis County as well, right? That's Highland and Nez Perce. I did forget about them. I was thinking Total Sports, where they co-op for everything. See, in Montana, where I'm from, they play fast and loose with the co-ops. It's like Hollywood relationships, coach. One year you're with this school, and next year you might be with somebody else, and whatever it takes to get enough kids out there to play.
Yeah, that Drummond-Phillipsburg team coming together is a powerhouse now. That good choice for both those schools to come together there near Missoula.
Yep, for sure. All right, so Dietrich moves on to the championship, and they will play an old familiar face, the Carey Panthers, a 70-0 shutout victory over Garden Valley in the second 1A semifinal from last Friday inside the ICCU Dome in Pocatello. Coach, again, you were on the call for this one. I was surprised that Garden Valley wasn't able to. I mean, Trevor Korn runs the ball for 81 yards, but it took him 18 carries to get to that total. This doesn't happen to Garden Valley a lot. They're used to asserting their dominance at the line, dictating the tempo and the flow of the game. And like so many teams have discovered, Carey's not really into that.
Yeah, Coach Durchie of the defense there from Carey has a bend and not break philosophy. And even if it takes 15 plays to get to the goal line and there's one more, he's betting on a fumble or an error of some kind. And that's kind of what happened throughout this game. The first drive that Garden Valley had, I believe, was 13 plays. Just banging it up the middle with Korn over and over 3 or 4 times in a row. And then another big guy coming through there. I was really surprised how many big guys were on this team. And Coach Saley's comments were those guys were actually really big. Compared to what we saw on film and harder to tackle. But eventually the turnovers got to Garden Valley, the errors, the third and longs weren't able to convert, and they went to the pass. And that wasn't Garden Valley's game. When the Panthers were able to knock them out on 4th down stops, get quick scores and get up real quick, 14-0. They went to that pass, and that was dangerous. And interceptions took place, and then it was just catch up all night long. But Garden Valley had their opportunities. They moved the ball. I think they stuck to their game plan, which is to control the clock, which is what they did when they had the ball. They just didn't get over the goal line, which counts for points. And I think they're well aware of that. The speed factor of the Carey defense was phenomenal, and the quick scorers. Once again, I believe 5 different guys scored. Gabe Sealy having a huge night, catching the ball for 3 touchdowns. AJ Black catching 2 touchdowns as well. And Preston Wood just looked like a champ, directing traffic from back in the pocket all over the field, waving them here and there, and then soft touch passes that were really clean and really pretty clean catches for the Panthers in the end zone or down the sideline to continue to put up a lot of points all night. And the factor that really stood out in that game is the conversions, the 2-point conversions. I think Carey only missed maybe 1 or 2 out of all of their scores. And those really added up to make that high score of 70. But a good, clean coached game from the Panthers on defense, getting that shutout. Most of the starters played the whole game, which was a new thing for those guys, but getting geared up for this next level, not rubbing it in, but just tuning them up, making sure they can last for, and they did.
And I think Coach Earsley for Garden Valley kind of knows the deal that, hey, Carey hasn't played their guys for 4 quarters all year. Yeah. Maybe the Butte County game, way back. But so they've got to be able to go for a full game. I think, yeah, he knows the deal there. Joel, your broadcast partner, says, holy Preston Wood, but that defense was unreal. And that's the thing, Will, is that it is a true effort with Wood. And Wood plays defense too, by the way, and he's pretty good at it. And it's AJ Black and Matthew Young and Stockton Sears, and there's a couple of Sa'ilis flying around. It's just incredible the number of weapons that Carey has on offense and defense.
I like their ability and willingness to move the ball around a little bit. It's not, and this is in kind of a contrast. On one side, you've got 5 guys scoring a touchdown for Carey in that game, 5 different guys, and that's with Preston Wood having a hand in 8 over the course of the game. And then you go into that other game where it's Connor Perkins to Chase Norman 5 different times for touchdowns. And that's not to say one is right or one is wrong. They're quite the juxtaposition. And I think that's one of the things that serves Carey really well is they're balanced. They're able to spread things around. They're able to utilize different weapons. And from what I've seen this year, it's a little bit of like we talked about with Hagerman in the 2A level all year. It's pick your poison. You want to load up to stop Preston Wood from running the ball? Okay, he'll just drop back and throw over you, and all of a sudden he'll have 6 touchdown passes. I think that's something that is really an asset for Carey is their ability to do that this year.
Yep. Sean was on the broadcast with you, Coach. He says Preston Wood used his off arm more than his throwing arm. He was landing planes like Top Gun.
He was really waving and directing traffic and getting guys into open space, but then finishing while being chased down with really soft touch passes. So it was a really great display of Carey football.
I could just picture it in my head too, him just pointing different directions, and yeah, that's fun.
It's good, Sean.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that could have used that on the broadcast, but oh well. We think about Carey and we think in success, and we should, right? They've had a lot of success, but Coach, for Preston Wood and these seniors, I think of Preston Wood because he's been the starting quarterback since his sophomore year. They haven't reached that pinnacle yet. This group of seniors, right? As the sophomores, they got to the semifinals against Oakley. That was in the 1A D1 playoffs. Fell short in a very close competitive game last year, right? Didn't go the way they wanted it to at the 1A D1 level again. So this is an important game for all of these Carey seniors here as well. They want to be part of that legacy.
Yeah, I talked about that to the boys a little bit in my pregame speech. Coach Saili invited me to talk to the boys there. That was a lot of fun. And I said, you guys got your butts handed to you last year. And what have you done about it this year? And they went back to work. They went back to the drawing board and they committed a little bit differently than the year before and trying to put themselves into position here. And Preston is a great leader of those young men right now.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see this championship matchup, guys. So, again, here is the official bracket. It is Carey and Dietrich in the Dome, the ICCU Dome. This is going to be Thursday night, 7 o'clock, only game in town. You can tune it into it on IdahoSports.com. Our absolute best are going to be on the call there. Sean and Joel, and also Paul Kingsbury. Actually, I think Sean is tied up Thursday night, so it might just be Joel and Paul. But either way, it's going to be a great broadcast on IdahoSports.com. I think we all know going in, Carey is the favorite. They should be. They won pretty convincingly in the regular season against Dietrich. So I will flip it the other direction and ask you, Coach, what does Dietrich have to do to slay Goliath here and pick off Carey in the final game of the season?
So I wrote a couple things down here, the keys to the wins for each team here. Number one, you're going to have to slow down Preston Wood, but you're going to have to defend those other targets as well, which may be difficult. You're going to have to stay in it early because Carey likes to start early, and you're going to have to be error-free against the Panthers because they don't make many mistakes, and they capitalize on them by putting up a lot of points early and late.
Yeah. Will, what do you think about Dietrich's? What do they have to do?
Sound assignment football on defense. You can't give up any just huge gash plays, especially early, like Coach said. How many times this year have we seen Kendrick as well, but Carey just run away right out of the chutes, 32-0 at the end of the first quarter, 18-0 3 minutes into the game, something like that. It's kind of the norm. And we talked about that coming into this game for Garden Valley and also a little bit for Tri-Valley with Dietrich. One of the big keys was going to be not losing touch early. And I think that that's going to be a big thing for Dietrich this week is, okay, say Carey gets a couple early touchdowns. That's okay. We've got to answer it. And then when we answer it and it's 14-14 at the end of the first, we got to adjust. And we got to make sure we're not giving up chunk plays. I think Coach was right on with, you can't let Preston Wood get comfortable either in the pocket or just kind of dropping back, planting a foot and taking off running. And if they're able to do that, I think it's more on the defensive side for them than the offensive side. I think they've got to make Carey work. And if they do, I think you got yourself a ball game. There's no reason Dietrich can't be in this game. There's no rule that says Carey has to win this game, 54-6 or whatever it was last time. There's no rule that says it has to happen again, but Dietrich has to play better than they did the first time around.
I mean, we have seen throughout these playoffs, the team that lost in the regular season has come back to beat the team the second time. Of course, every matchup is different, but for Dietrich, I'm looking at the defense here. I'm looking to guys like Brody Torgerson and Halaba up front on that line. Can Dietrich get a stop when they absolutely need to? Because we know the offense can keep up with Carey, but man, that is an almost impossible way to try and win. And so I'm looking to the defense, and I'm looking to a guy like Brody Torgerson, who's pretty much started since his day one at Dietrich, and he is kind of the anchor of that defense. Can he get his teammates lined up and ready to go? And can they get some stops? Even if it's just one or two possessions where Carey is not in the end zone, like that's huge. That's a huge win. Might be the difference with the way these teams can put up the points. On the flip side, Coach, what did you write down for keys to the game for Carey?
Right. On the flip side, I think Carey just needs to play their game and keep their emotions under control. Need to stop Perkins and make sure he doesn't get loose too many times. He's going to get loose a few more times here. He's a great runner, and it's a dry surface, and it's a nice place to play. And number three, I think Carey needs to play like they lost and stay hungry and not give Dietrich a chance to even think about surging throughout the game.
I like that, a little reverse psychology there. I like that approach to it. Will, what do you think about Carey?
Probably force some turnovers and have that opportunity to have another fast start like they've done. If let's just say for sake of example, they get the opening kickoff, go get a touchdown, get that ball right back. Whether it's a quick 3 and out, whether it's an onside kick, whether it's a turnover, whatever it is, get that ball right back and score again. And that, I think, is when some doubt could start to creep in. And that's where a 14-0, 16-0, that number starts to look really big, really fast if it happens quickly. And so that's why I think it's important for Dietrich not to let it happen. And for Carey, I think it's important for them to try to make it happen early.
Yeah. And for my key, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but I think my key for Carey is let Connor Perkins run, make him run with the football. The first time they played, Perkins did his usual thing with the footwork. And then, as you've alluded to, Coach, as the season has progressed, he has kind of settled into more of a pocket passer at times and able to beat you with his arm down the field as well. But that was a work in progress throughout the season, and it's really honed in now. So if I'm Carey, we're not letting him beat us down the field. If they're going to get big yardage plays, it's going to be him running the football. Maybe that'll get him tired out. And so I think kind of counterintuitively, we want Perkins to run the ball. We're not going to let Norman or Wyatt Snedden or any of these guys get deep behind us and beat us.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you make right there. Carey brings a lot of heat on the defensive side from the defensive end spots. And I think we'll see some screens and some quick passes to the outside, which is probably what Carey would prefer over Perkins running. Perkins got beat up quite a bit in that game and doesn't like that physicality. So we'll see how he matches up in the second round against a Carey team that's hungry, and Dietrich would like a piece as well.
Yep. It's going to be a fun battle between Carey and Dietrich, guys. It is time to make our championship predictions. Howard in the chat says Carey by at least 40 points. I don't know if it's going to be that, but I will take
Howard's
Carey.
feeling good.
Yeah, Howard's feeling feisty here for sure. When the season started back in August, first episode, we made our official championship predictions. I also I always write down what the title of the podcast is going to be. So I still got that. Apparently our first episode was titled Vacuuming Down Doritos. I think that was something Will said.
That sounds like something dumb I'd say.
Yeah. But our championship predictions, Coach, you had Carey over Genesee. Half right. Carey's in the championship. Genesee, unfortunately, didn't make the playoffs. I had Carey over Wallace. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, the championship's been played already. It was just in the quarterfinals. And Will had Garden Valley over Deary. So you got the two playoff teams. And
I had
Garden
them both
Valley,
in. I had them both in. I just couldn't punch through to the championship round. Next year.
Yeah. Next year I'll be your year, Will. Yeah. Whatever it takes to get you through the off season, buddy.
I'm a silver lining guy. Two young teams, a lot of talented players coming back for both those squads. Coach Olson, Coach Yearsley, proved me right.
Spoken like a true Wazoo fan. Next year it'll be our year.
Oh, so says what was your alma mater again?
Montana Grizzlies. I'm wearing the shirt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they won a game a few years ago.
And I got more championships. I'm just saying.
I hate to throw this in before we have our picks here. Brody Estelle left Dietrich last year, and he didn't really want to do that too bad. And he spoke his piece saying, I think we can win a state championship. I really don't want to leave this ball club, but he did anyway, and he's in Stevensville, Montana. So I imagine he'll be at the game there cheering on his Blue Devils. Just a shout out to Brody Estelle and what he's done there to establish the Dietrich tradition.
Yeah, it's incredible, this family legacy where Rick Estelle was the coach, and that's Brody's uncle. And then Brody took over kind of as a co-coach at first, as Rick's health was failing him a little bit, and then as the full-time head coach last year. And then, like you mentioned, Brody moved to my hometown, Stevensville, Montana, in a small world move. And now it's Garrett Estelle, Brody's cousin, Rick's son, who's carrying on the legacy. Dietrich has been playing with a special decal on their helmets all season in honor of Coach Rick Estelle as well. So yes, another great storyline for the Blue Devils in that contest with the Estelle lineage there. It must be something about that area, Coach. Kirkland's coaching in Carey and Estelle's coaching in Dietrich. Finally, Coach Saili has come along with a new last name.
Yeah, he's got 4 boys, so they should be here forever. It'd be awesome.
Yep, for sure. So, okay. Shout out to Brody Estelle, certainly. Coach, what is your championship prediction?
I'll be predicting those Carey Panthers with the 8th state championship win.
It'd be pretty remarkable, Will.
I got to make up some ground on you guys, so I'm gonna go Dietrich.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm going Carey as well. I think Carey's just too talented, too much. Championship number 8. I got to think, what's the record? Does anybody know? Salmon River, how many did they win?
Salmon River has 7, and I think Council has 7.
Okay.
So that would be the most.
So this would be precedent setting. It looks like
Way
Council.
to go, Coach. Make me look like more of a jerk.
and of course, Dietrich very famously won their first championship in school history against Carey a couple years ago, Coach Kirkland. So the storylines just abound here in this rivalry matchup. But to wrap up the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast, we've got to go to the coach's corner. So we've been talking about all these great championships that Carey has won over the years, 7 in school history. 5 of them came under your watch, Coach Kirkland. And that's why when we say you're one of the most accomplished 8-man coaches or any football coach in Idaho, we have some stats to back up what we're saying. We're not just blowing smoke your way. So we thought it would be great for you to kind of reflect back on those 5 state championship teams you had over your tenure at Carey, and maybe a lesson or 2 that was learned from each of those teams along the way as well for this week's Coach's Corner segment. So we will go ahead and like so many times this time of year, we'll yield the floor to you and take it away for the Coach's Corner.
All right. Thanks, Brandon and Will. Brandon came up with this idea, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share and brag just a little bit. Old Coach Lee Cook would say, it ain't bragging if you've done it. And so we'll just talk about what we've done and share some of those things with you tonight. So Brandon had this concept of a 5-point plan, and I switched it over to the Gimme 5, because that's what we do in athletics is Gimme 5. And perhaps the final Kirkland Coach's Corner edition of the year. So I tried to base it on each state championship and the themes that lied behind our motivation for each of those. And so I'll share that with you a little bit tonight. We are into paraphernalia, man. We buy a lot of different T-shirts and sweatshirts and cut-off sleeve shirts and championship rings. We just love that stuff. We think it's important in our program here in this town, and we love just to wear it everywhere we go. And so I'm going to show you each of my rings here and talk about briefly each of these seasons as we go throughout the night. So it was my 5th season as head coach here at Carey, and my seniors were a group that I started with in the 7th grade. I also coached them in junior high, and they said in the weight room that summer of their senior season, "Okay, Coach, we could probably win a state championship." And to be honest, I really wasn't even thinking about that, even though that's what we do here at Carey School is win a lot of state titles. And they said it, and they dreamed it, and we raised them up to believe in that. And on our championship ring on the inside engraven is "The little things matter most." And it really was. That team wasn't the fastest team, definitely wasn't the biggest team, but we could execute really well. And they dreamed it and believed it. And we had a group of seniors that led us all the way for my first state championship. And that was a beautiful ring by Jostens that they created for us. And my second title was a couple of years later. We lost a heartbreaker in 2007 in Boise State to a Salmon River team on the last play of the game. And so our theme in 2008 was "True Champions Pay the Price." And we were a run team that year. We were almost like North Gym, only we threw 5 passes a game, Will. And that was a true stat. My first undefeated season, we went 12-0 and won the championship 46-14 that year up in Moscow against the Hoenike team. We only had 3 seniors on the team. My star, Heath Adamson, had 6 rushing and receiving touchdowns that game. The only other one went to the other lone senior that wasn't the center, and he hadn't caught a pass all year, and he caught one in the back of the end zone. And it was good enough for his dad to buy us dinner at Rowdy's in Lewiston that night, which is amazing barbecue, by the way. But that was our rebound season in 2008, not taking no for an answer and paying the price. In 2010, this was kind of a surprise one to us. We lost in 2009 in the in the semifinals. We shouldn't have. We had the most experienced team in the state going to championships in a row. That would have been our fourth in a row. But we had a kid move into town from St. Anthony, legally, by the way, to all fans out there. And he was a stud. And he was a little guy. He was only 160 pounds. But he came to town with all of his St. Anthony gear, his helmet, shoulder pads, his pants. And St. Anthony would not release his records to come here officially until he paid the $400 for all of that gear. And so we got to laugh at that because he was practicing in red while we were in blue for a week until he paid his dues. But he ended up being the player of the year. And in that season, we had a team call us from Alamo, Nevada. Hoenike Valley is the high school. If you've studied them or heard of them at all, they won 103 games in a row. And we were about number 49 or so when they beat us. But they came here to Carey. And we were ahead at half, by the way, bragging rights to be ahead, one of the only teams out of 103 to be ahead of them at halftime. And that kind of kicked us into gear and helped us rise to that championship level. And so we won. But we had a kid in late October that was killed in a car accident that was on our team. And that kind of brought us together immediately towards the end of the season. And we dedicated our season to him, number 37, Austin Hanifer. And we were not taking no for an answer against a good Garden Valley team at the Eagle High School, which, by the way, was the first time a 1A school or any 8-man school played a championship game at a high school. And it was a great venue. It worked out, and we were able to be victorious in that game, that season. Then we had a dry spell for a little while here at Carey. 2011, we got second at state to a Lighthouse team, and then we went dry for a little while. And then 3 third places in a row led us to the 2017 season, and my second undefeated season, 12-0. And the best leadership arose out of this class of all time. And I would fist fight somebody to the death for that one because of the leaders that were on this team. Not just 1 or 2 or your 4 captains calling the toss, but all 8 seniors. And right down to the manager, they were kind. They were really focused, and they just did their roles so well. And I'd love to talk to any of you about that sometime because I'm so proud of that crew. And I don't think it'll ever be topped, but we've gotten close. But these guys were amazing. And it was my first father-son title. My son Trevor was a starting center, all-state center, number 24. And our theme was play our game. We stayed relaxed all season long. And when we got to the championship against a bunch of monsters from Tri-Valley, goodness, 13 monsters, and with talent, with speed, we had to focus on just playing our game. And Coach Holloway from Lighthouse said it best to me on the sideline there at the game. He said, "You're just going to have to outcoach them." And we did, and our kids stayed focused, and we won by 8 points, 50-42 against an amazing Tri-Valley team. Well, that was number 4. And one for the thumb. This was not an easy battle here. We knew the target was getting larger on us as the games were continuing to go by. And I wanted a back-to-back for so many years. We had so many tries at it, and it's hard, man. It is difficult to have number 1, the kids to come back, number 2, to stay healthy, number 3, the luck and the calls to go your way. But we did. It was our 3rd undefeated season, 12-0, making us 24-0 overall. And we had 2 Player of the Year running backs on our team that year in Porter Meekum and Carson Simpson. We had to beat Lighthouse twice. When we beat Lighthouse here in Carey, I told Coach Holloway, "We'll see you again in November." And he says, "You bet." And it was a war. And on our practice schedule, each day I had printed, "There's no easy way out." And on the bottom of our rings, we printed brotherhood. And that's how we sustained ourselves and how we won together, working with the talent that we had left and fighting for a 6-point win in the championship number 5. So you guys out there playing for a championship this weekend, you have some themes that you've gone on with your teams, whatever those might be. Those may go on your ring, they may go on the board, on a flag of some sort, but they've driven you to where you are today, and you'll always remember and reflect on that with a certain group because every group's different. And as you go toward that championship, I wish you best of luck. Hope the ball all bounces your way, And I hope you get rings. I hope you celebrate with something like that, because they're a great memory to have. And good luck to you in the North and in the South. Should be fun championship weekend. That's all I got.
Hold on.
Come on!
Got us all muted there.
Yeah, sorry. Will and I were backstage. I had our mics muted. Will, so much history in that presentation. I know you love the history just like I do.
Oh yeah, and it's hearing some of those names that I remember from back when I was in the media, and then post media. Between then and now, some of those games I remember. I wasn't at that Salmon River Carey game that you talk about, Coach, and sorry to pick at that scab, but I've heard many a story about what a contest that was. So yeah, it's great to really look in the rearview mirror every now and then and remember what's back there and who helped us get here.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun coaching over the years. I coached in 10 state championships and won 5. It's difficult. Some were upsets and some by 6 points. A lot of them by 6 points, and heartbreakers. I'd rather lose by 100 than 6 in those big games. But a lot of fun nonetheless. And this will be Carey's 16th championship game in 32 seasons. 30 years ago in 1994 was their first title. Will, I'm just giving you some more history.
There you go.
Dad. And we'll see how it all plays out. Anything can happen on any given night. Lots of fun either way for these high school kids and for these small communities.
Yeah. And I think the overarching theme I picked up from all of those championship teams was it's not easy. Just getting to the championship is difficult. It's hard work. It's supposed to be hard work. I think we take that for granted a lot, where we see, oh yeah, Carey back in the championship, or Oakley was on that big run and they had won 3 in a row prior to last year's championship, and we all just kind of assumed, well, they've done it 3 years before. They'll do it. It takes such hard work to continue to climb that mountain, which is what makes that 2A championship, I think, so remarkable. No matter who wins between Butte County or Kendrick, it's going to be a multi-championship run here, where Butte County is the defending state champions at the 2A level. Kendrick, of course, has won 3 in a row at the 1A level. Now they're up at the 2A level trying to go for 4 in a row, which is just remarkable to think about. And so I think that was the big takeaway I had, Coach, was that none of this is easy. We can take it for granted when we see teams like Kendrick and Carey perennially in these positions, but every year it takes work. And if there's not the buy-in, if the team, the coaches, the players, the community just thinks, yeah, we've been winning all the time, we can just show up and do it, I mean, that's the year you're going to miss out.
Yeah, if people only knew how hard it is to manage your team the last 3 weeks, you would say thank you a million times and send us all a check, because it's a lot of work to keep everybody focused. It's getting cold. You're tired of hitting each other, and it takes a variety of different practices to hold to continue to make it fun and to get there. And one of the things I'll never forget from my first state championship that Lee Cook told me is, Coach, you did a great job managing these guys. And he said exactly what you did, Brandon. You got to finish the last month strong, and especially that last game. And luck's got to go your way in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
So,
you
thanks
guys
for bringing
talk
it
about how, sometimes we take it for granted. The pendulum inevitably swings for all of us, right? You talk about Oakley goes on that great run. They struggled this year. Salmon River was untouchable for the better part of a decade. Then they had 2 or 3 really rough years, and they're kind of pulling themselves out of it now with the help of a couple of good younger classes in Riggins. So at some point, even the 1,000-pound gorilla gets punched in the mouth, and to be able to just bounce back, and Kendrick going for 4 in a row, Butte County going for a second, Carey getting back into that championship game this year. Those are some elite marquee level programs, and it doesn't happen by accident.
Yep.
Right. So I'm going to show these, Brandon, because I had them here. I forgot to put them on after my presentation, but here they are, baby. Here they are. All well earned. Not even close to the value of what they cost to buy them. That way more astronomical, but a lot of fun nonetheless. A lot of great memories in each of these things right here on my fingers. So Go get some, you guys. Good luck out there.
Why doesn't the one on the pinky fit?
Well, I probably broke this knuckle or popped it or something. I don't know. It won't slide, Will. Too many of those chicken sandwiches.
I'm glad you did that, Coach, because we have a couple of championship winning coaches on the team here at IdahoSports.com. Your broadcast partner last week, Sean Kane, actually fantastic tennis coach at Century High School in Pocatello, second winningest coach all time in the state for his classification level. Scott Burton, who does our Magic Valley Prepcast, and he's the athletic director at Jerome High School. He's won, 20 plus debate state championships every year. Jerome Tigers debate champions. Gary Jones, who's a broadcaster for us over in your neck of the woods, Will, won a state baseball championship at New Plymouth back in the day in the early 90s. And our own Paul Kingsbury sat at the end of the bench for that 1993 state boys basketball championship team at New Plymouth as well. And so, our championship Q factor increased significantly when you decided to do this, Coach.
I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun to be able to share. I know I've talked a lot about the Panthers, but your programs are there as well. You're all doing well, and I compliment you for playing this game and coaching it up well. You're always competitive throughout the state, and it kind of mixes here and there. And you'll all be there. Just keep working hard and keep rising. Have fun doing it too.
Yep. All right, guys, before we get out of here, I don't want to forget, I forgot to do this earlier, but let's give our final farewell to Garden Valley really quickly, and then we can get out of here. I don't want the Wolverines to feel slighted because they had a fantastic season as well before last week's semifinal loss. Jason Yearsley, 14th year. He's one of the old dogs in this coaching industry. There's not too many anymore that go double digits in terms of years of service. And so for Coach Yearsley, and then he helps out coaching boys basketball in the winter too. He's an assistant coach there for Coach Heather Kelly. And so he's a busy guy. We appreciate all he does for Garden Valley. And Will, some high impact guys leaving, Trevor Korn, Trustin Brown among them, but Max Yearsley.
Rex Fackrell is going to be gone as well. They're losing some, they're losing some dudes. And like Coach was talking about earlier, they're big dudes. They're not, wimpy. They're hefty. And they've got a few more coming. There's a kid named Marshall Coley who I think could be a nice player for them in the coming years. And they get Max Yearsley back, and they have Maddox Miller back. They also have Tyler Rowland back, Payson Kelly, who played quarterback a bit in the game the other night. So they do have some good pieces coming back, but they're going to have to shuffle the chairs around a little bit and see how they all fit next year. But the good news is, if you're a Garden Valley fan, there's talent there. There's plenty of good talent there. Yep.
And so that'll be an interesting storyline too. The coaches, where at the 2A level, you've got Sam Thorngren, who's been 18 years at Butte County, Zane Hobart, I think 12 or 13 at Kendrick, and then two relative newbies in that 1A. Coach Saili, second year at Carey. Garrett Estelle, first year head coach at Dietrich. That's hard to do, Coach, in your first year as a head coach, take a team to the championship game.
Yeah, I think this is the youngest matchup of youngest coaches ever to appear in a championship game. I don't know of anyone that's gone in their first season. Can you think of one, Will?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to go really scroll down some lists. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think the youngest coaches to meet up in a championship game. Pretty cool.
Yep, pretty remarkable. So, all right, Howard gets the last word here. I almost said Preston Wood. Howard Wood, which I believe no relation, just a common last name. It's been a great year. Thank you, guys. Yeah, and we will be back for one more show next week, of course. We've got to talk about all these great championship game performances and put a wrap on the season as well. But until then, enjoy the championships, everybody. 1A championship Thursday night, 7:00 on IdahoSports.com. 2A championship Friday evening, 4:00 Pacific, 5:00 Mountain Time, also on IdahoSports.com. Coach Kirkland, I know you're going to be a ball of energy until that final whistle Thursday. Good luck.
Yeah, I might not sleep tonight just for fun. Been a while.
Yep.
I haven't stayed up all night for a while. Why not?
Will, you got some good game day snacks to take in all the action?
Not at the moment, but I can hit the grocery store tomorrow and grab a couple things.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll be at the Kibbe Dome Friday for the Butte County Kendrick Showdown. It should be a lot of fun there in Moscow. Until then, though, for Will Hoenike and Coach Lane Kirkland, my name is Brandon Baney. Thank you for tuning into the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast. Enjoy the championships, everybody. We'll see you back here next week to crown our champions here on IdahoSports.com.